I am Bhante Warapanyo, American Buddhist monk, and this live stream is taking place from the close proximity of the Bodhi tree where the Buddha became enlightened. So the Buddha, Sammasambuddha, original enlightenment, complete enlightenment. The title of this video is how to become enlightened as quickly as possible. How can we get it as soon as possible, what we want? This is a question a lot of people have, right? How can I become enlightened as soon as possible? Actually, I would be surprised for someone to meet someone who doesn't have this question, especially people who are newer or less experienced with the path of Buddhism and meditation, spiritual living. Because everything in society, everything in the world is kind of screaming and teaching us to solve our problems by getting something pleasurable. And of course, what is a problem? A problem is that which is unpleasant, that which is difficult, that which is not ideal, that which is not comfortable, that which is not suitable, that which doesn't maybe quite make sense. That would be a problem, right? So enlightenment in the minds of many people is how to solve the problem. And it is kind of the question of how can I solve my problem? How can I become enlightened? How can I solve my problem? How can I get rid of this suffering, this difficulty, this unsatisfactoriness, this non-practical, complicated thinking, these thoughts that are not helping to be free, to be wonderful, to be peaceful, to be resilient, to help, to serve. And who wouldn't want to solve their problem as quickly as possible? Right? Find me a person who wouldn't want, if the problem could be solved as quickly as possible, who wouldn't want that? So it's a tight spot. It's a little bit of an inconvenient situation because in Buddhism, it is said, it is taught or shared with us. I think sharing is a lot more useful than teaching, because who am I to teach and who are you to be a student, to be a listener? You know, where'd that come from? Where'd we get that idea from? I'm the teacher, you're the student, in any aspect of life. So the Buddha shared with us, not authoritatively, because the Dhamma in Buddhism is that which is to come and see. You come and see. You have an experience, you have an understanding through your practice, you have realization. That's the teachings in Buddhism are pathways to realization. It's not something for you to adopt and believe in. You adopting and believing in things is what you're already doing, is what everyone is already doing. So Buddhism as a philosophy or Buddhism as a religion isn't teaching to, oh, there's a little baby mouse having snacks in this room. I was hearing the sound, the little spoon. There's a dharma in everything. There's a truth in everything if we can kind of be mindful enough and aware enough to see that, to experience that. Ho, 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 I'm sitting in a chair. Ho, 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 I'm seeing. Ho, 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 I'm teaching the Dharma. You know? Just baby mouse, go around, it's not thinking about things. It's living its life, having a snack, having a treat. Now, we don't want to aspire to be an animal, but there's some good points to the animal. They're not malicious in nature. They're not necessarily holding grudges. I mean, you can't even get a hold of them enough to create a grudge, a little baby mouse like that. So, where was I? The teaching of the Buddha, the Dharma, to become ensawn for oneself, right? To build a Dharma house, you have to sawn or sow the seeds of the Dharma. So that there is this unsatisfactoriness, and the Buddha points to that. The Buddha is pointing the first noble truth, right? Look, everybody, you like this, I like that, you were over there, we were over here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I had this expectation, I had a plan, didn't work out, now I'm here. Okay, that's good and fine, right? But the Buddha comes in and says, wait a minute. There is suffering. If we stop long enough to take a look in whatever situation we're in, whether you're driving a Tesla or you're driving an Audi A8, okay, something like that, or you're in India or Malaysia or America, if you stop long enough, just for a moment, to look at direct experience, and you sustain that looking, that attention, what you're very likely to find is that there is a sense of a lack of completeness. In a general sense of how you live your life. In an ultimate sense, you'll find completeness. But in a general sense, if you look at how you live your life and what you do and what influences you and what leads you down certain pathways, is that there's this sense of not being fully satisfied, not being fully at peace, not being fully free in this moment, at this moment. The Buddha points for us to look at that, to sit with that, to experience that, to endure that. Enduring, to endure, is a very powerful practice within the scope of meditation. When you sit and practice mindfulness of breathing, and then you feel uncomfortableness or you feel those difficulties, if you can sit and endure, sit with, be with, breathe with those difficulties, that lack of idealness, that's great. You'll get a lot of benefit from that. As long as you don't stress yourself out, as long as you don't work yourself up too much. And secondly, the second noble truth, the Buddha taught that the cause of that suffering is our desire, this craving, this wanting, this seeking for something. And that seeking for something tends to also be what our approach is when it comes to enlightenment. We're seeking for something, we're wanting something. But if there is suffering, we recognize that and we're aware of that, and now we're seeking to get rid of that suffering, to solve that problem, or we're seeking to become enlightened, then the Buddha says, wait a minute, The cause of suffering is that clinging, that chasing, that grasping after. That's a pickle, that's a brine, isn't it? Is it or is it not? Now that's more, I would say that's more of a mole than a mouse or a mice. So what is this? What is this dimension here where we recognize suffering, there is suffering, and then as a Buddhist or as someone who's on the path to enlightenment, we desire to get rid of that suffering. We want to fix the problem of suffering. But the Buddha says that desiring, that grasping, that chasing after is the cause of suffering, is the reason for that suffering. So what do we do? Well, in the meantime, we have the third noble truth. The third noble truth, this is kind of big part of Buddhism, is that, okay, look, the Buddha says like this. The Buddha says, look, there is suffering and there's a cause of suffering, which is desire. So we're immediately in a kind of trap because the Buddha says life is suffering, or that there is suffering, there is unsatisfactoriness. This permeates reality of human experience, not being satisfied. So immediately, okay, I want to get rid of that. I don't want that. But then the Buddha says, wait a minute. That's why suffering happens, because you want this and you don't want that. This craving, this grasping. But the Buddha says, okay, wait a minute, let me go on. And he says, the third noble truth is that there's an ending of suffering. So before we get tangled up in our conundrum with suffering and the cause of suffering, the Buddha says, well, okay, wait a minute, there is an ending of suffering. There is nibbana. Nibbana is like peace, it's freedom. Nibbana is the cessation of suffering, the cessation of dukkha, the ending of unsatisfactoriness. Now that sounds quite accessible, but if we look at a general sense, if we look from the perspective of a general sense of the life that we live, right, our life isn't really like that. There's so much stress, there's so much confusion, there's so much complicatedness, there's so much, we get into these arguments, we get into these judgments about ourselves and others. But anyway, the Buddha says nibbana, the dukkha nirodha, the cessation of dukkha, the cessation, the ending of unsatisfactoriness. Freedom. All right, okay, well that's great, Buddha, but we're still in this bind. Now the Buddha says, okay, number 4, the fourth noble truth. There is a path to nibbana. There's a path to the cessation of dukkha, right? And that is the eightfold path. And we can get into that because I do know a little bit about the eightfold path. And so the interest, the vitality, the kind of gristle of curiousness about the suffering and the cause of suffering, because we can be aware if we look a little bit, right? We can be aware that there is suffering in life. There is difficulty, there is stress, there is a sense of being bound up, whether it's in financial situations or social situations, or even just here in India, air conditioning is not very common. And the standard of like how buildings are and the food is different. Mosquitoes, it's very different. There's a lot of suffering in that, pain, right? And then suffering in that. But for anyone, in general sense, there is that difficulty. And then that the cause of that difficulty, really the root cause of that difficulty, is not some particular situation or some particular feeling or sensation or like philosophical problem. The Buddha doesn't say that. The Buddha says, look, the cause of that suffering, the cause of that kind of stress, that bindedness, that miseriness, is the desire for something, the desire for someone, the desire for some experience, the desire for some situation, the desire to experience pleasure or praise or fame or success, right, or wealth. And in the same way, there is a kind of desire or an aversion towards the opposites of that. We want to avoid loss. We want to avoid poverty. We want to avoid pain. We want to avoid people having a negative view of us. And not because of the negative view, not because of the pain, not because of the pleasure, not because of the wealth or the poverty, but because of the desire, because of the chasing after, because of the trying to avoid. That is why the suffering is there. And that's a really interesting premise to work with, to engage with, to sit with, to breathe with. And this is what Buddhism requires. There's some Pali words for this. I don't know. People expect a lot, and they tend to not give a lot. But I can give this. There is a theory, right? The theory is kind of like the contemplative sharing, the thought-based kind of philosophical sharing about what this is all about, what the idea of this is, the premise of this is. So the theory is well and good. You can study a lot of theory, you can adopt a lot of theory, you can integrate it into like your perspective, your philosophy of how you live your life. Okay, that's a theory based. Then in Buddhism we have theory, and then we have the practice. So the practice in Buddhism is the Eightfold Path, but we're also talking about things a little bit more on the ground. We're talking about practicing generosity. We're talking about following 5 precepts. We're talking about practicing, come on, let's get up, let's practice some meditation together. Let's sit and focus on our breathing. Let's listen to a Dhamma talk, come on, that kind of thing. That's a practice. And the practice in Buddhism is really, really important. And it's a unique aspect of Buddhism that there is so many avenues for and specific descriptions of practices. Vipassana meditation, samatha meditation, metta meditation, self-inquiry meditation, listening to Dhamma talks meditation, doing actions of generosity meditation, following precepts meditation. Many good choice. many good opportunity. Then we have the realization. And realization, we can say, is wisdom and compassion. Wisdom and compassion concerned with no self, impermanence, and the unreliability of things. The knowledge, the intrinsic knowledge, or the experiential knowledge of the unreliability of things, the unreliability of people, places, situations, experiences, thoughts, stories. This video will be published on the YouTube channel after the live is finished, so you can come back to it. The correct way to meditate is a lot like the correct way to play volleyball or the correct way to play football, European football, soccer. Find a field and go to it and find some other players and play with them. And when you're new to it, when you really are new to something, you listen and you follow. I mean, that's how we learn. Naturally, we learn according to nature. Listening, following, attending to, serving, giving, that's volleyball. Passing on, passing along, sharing. We have to go beyond the rigid focus on correctness, because correctness is more about desire than it is actually doing anything correctly. And desire is what we are endeavoring to put down and to detach from in Buddhism. So when we listen to a Dhamma talk like this one, just listen. That is the correct way to meditate when listening to a Dhamma talk. Just listen. Just show up and listen. Because we as human beings, especially Western people, especially white American men, but just Western people in general, modern people, educated people, we overestimate, we way overestimate our grasp, our authority of reality. You see? modern people, educated people, have a lot of attachment to a bad view, to a wrong view, to a selfish view, right? To a small-minded view, to a view that is limiting unnecessarily. So, learning to detach from our view, learning to detach from our understanding, learning to detach from the sense of authority that we have about the world, about other people, about ourselves, about our own mind, is very, very important to make progress on the path. Progress on the path to enlightenment is about detachment. It's about the stop gap between grasping and not grasping, between coming and going. Because between coming and going, there's no coming and no going. The space, between the space in between thoughts, there are no thoughts. The thought about the space in between thoughts is not the space in between thoughts. And yet, how profound that is in the relevance that it has to our operating system. If you don't have any space in between thoughts, then words don't make sense. It's all gobbledygook. So in just listening, we extend the spaciousness in between our own malignant or not malignant thoughts. There is a just in everything. There is a just in seeing. There is a just in hearing. There is a just in breathing. There is a just in the body just being where it is physically. There is a just in every sensation of breathing, or of tension in the body, or pressure, or stress, pain, pleasantness, whatever it may be. There's a just in that. The way that I like to meditate, if I were to assume up an I of myself, of this body and mind, because that's one of the big Buddhist ideas, is that there is no I. This is just a coming together of elements. So there's no blame, there's no shame, there's nothing much to argue about, because this is cause and effect. But anyway, cause and effect only. If there were to be an I assumed up by this body and mind at this time, that I would say that the way that I like to meditate is to find the just, to adjust to the just in seeing, and this is from the Bahia Sutta in the Pali Canon. In the seeing is just the seeing. How rich that is. In the face being the way that it is, just the face being the way that it is. In the hearing, just the hearing. I mean, how rich is that? In the feelings, in the sensations in the body. There are sensations in the body, just like if you rub your fingers together, there's sensations on the tips of your fingers. Just in the same way, there are sensations in the body. Is there a noticing? So in noticing those sensations, just those sensations noticed. In this, we don't leave out the thinking. So, hey, thought, just that thought. You thought you had thought that, period. But this is not someone telling you that from a position of authority, position of wisdom, compassion, whatever, not somebody trying to help you out. This is the training of allowing that just to be there. In the thinking, in that thought, there is just that thought. Boom. That's power. That's real thunder. That's real lightning. You see? You had thought that, but had saying that to yourself through practicing like that. Oh, you had thought that. Hello. And to be in this wavelength, to kind of be in a wave pool like this, there are certain good conditions that allow one to pay the entry fee to get into a wave pool like this. You need merits to be here. You need merits. See, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and then, whatever else you need there to be. But the main ones that are not obscured, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. You see? And then Eightfold Path. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 9 is a perfect enlightenment. Because this is the realm of the Dhamma or the Dharma, this is the realm of mindfulness and detachment. This is the realm of not someone, not some place, not some situation. This is the realm of, oh, you had thought in that. You had assumed up that thought. So it takes a great degree of merits to arrive in a place like this, and then to be able to stay in a place like this also takes merits. Why does it take merits? Because once you had run out of the merits that allowed you or supported you to be here and then to stay here, you wouldn't be able to continue listening, practicing for any reasons. We can practice mindfulness and detachment, but if we are so bound up in our anxiety, if we're so bound up in our ignorance and attachment, our non-practical, complicated thinking, if we're so bound up in our greed, our me, my, I have an opinion, that little voice or that big voice that says, I have an opinion, I have an idea, if we're so lost in that, trapped in that, bound by that, then we can't listen to the Dhamma teachings because they uncouple, they disentangle that which allows greed, anger, and delusion to propagate and continue, to reify themselves. It is the great statement, oh, you had thought that. Or the words of the Buddha, like you came along and had some complaint, or you were praising the Buddha, or you had some big philosophical question about your life that you thought was so important for the Buddha. And the Buddha's response was, thus have I heard. Actually, I've really been wanting to go through some documents with this community, some quite important documents. And it took me quite a while to get my hands on them, but I do have those documents now. So at some point in the near future, we've already gone over some of them, but we'll continue. This particular document I want to take a look at. Together. Alone together. This path is not about controlling others. It's not about being in charge of anyone. It's not about being in control of anything. The only aspect of control that is within this path to enlightenment, to nibbana, to freedom, is to be aware enough of mental, physical, verbal actions, moments by moments, to be able to detach from them, to stop. But that's really not control in the usual way we think about it, of like, I'm deciding on this, I'm choosing that, I'm choosing this, etc. This control is about detachment, right? It's like daring to not do what could be done. Daring to do what could not be done, what you didn't dare to do. Of course, in the realm of generosity, in the realm of staying close to your precepts. We have an addiction. I have an addiction. I'm not Sama Sambuddha. I'm not fully enlightened. Have an addiction to praise, to fame, to pleasure, to gain, to wealth. And I have an addiction to the avoidance of negative views about me, poverty, losing wealth, pain, negative things being said to me. And these are these worldly winds that we encounter and that we have to deal with as practitioners. We notice, we become aware that there is an addict inside of us. And that addict, that dukkha junkie, won't stop, can't stop to want to assume up so many story, so many ways for grasping to make sense. So we need to give this junkie the forgiveness, the power of not someone. You had thought that. Not some place. Not some situation. Not some experience. And then when we take that to meditation, or when we take that to our meditation way, our practice way, you see that just one person is enough. It's not about building a family. It's not about creating these relationships. It's not about how many people know about you, or if they like you, or they support you, or if they follow you, or the opposite. People don't like you. People are negative towards you. It's not about if you become very wealthy. It's not about if you lose all of your wealth. It's about freedom. It's about taking responsibility, helping this body and mind. For you, that body and mind. For me, that's this body and mind. To be free. The others are to be used, to be exploited only, without attachment, to do all kinds of good deeds. They're not to be grasped onto. They're not to be developing relationship with. Not to be assuming up about them. Not to become obsessed with them. They're to be used for doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment. To liberate, to free out, to bless, to forgive. That's it. And the most important person in your life needs to be you, and use relationship with not someone. The truth. The use relationship with the truth, with not someone, with no self. That's the most important person. Now there is a path. That's what the Buddha said. Buddha said, look, it sucks. There's a reason that it sucks. It can stop sucking. And there's a path to the ending of sucking. There's a path to the end of suffering. There's a path to the ending of being a sucker. And to being free. There's nothing more important than this. There's nothing more important than freedom. And the more free you are, the only you that I'm talking about is the you that's concerned with the truth. You had thought that you. The other you have to deal with through sacrifice. You have to deal with through doing good deeds. You have to deal with through mindfulness and detachment. But the you that is concerned with no self, the truth, that is the most important one. That is the only one that you need to know about. And the community of those who know like that and who focus like that, believe like that, to a larger or lesser extent, to a greater or lesser extent, that is called the Sangha. So if you are concerned with the truth, if you are concerned with that most important one, the you that is concerned with not someone, no self, then you should be concerned with the Sangha. And you should be concerned with what the Sangha is concerned with, and that is the Buddha and the Dharma. Meditation means to be aware. If you are not aware in meditation, then you are not meditating. You're sleeping, or you're unconscious, you're in a coma, you're bogged down. This is a rich life. This is a Mike Tyson lifestyle. Heavy hitters, okay? Juiced up. Real talk. Hot and heavy. Ready to go. Okay? Who draws first? This isn't sleeping around, halfway meditation, you're listening to some meditation apps, things like that. That's your problem. This is concerned with the truth. And the biggest war zone is your own mind. The biggest war zone is your reliance on desire, your reliance on fear, your lack of concern with the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, your lack of concern with mindfulness and detachment. We have to stop placating the ego that's tricking us. It's not the ego, it's Mara. It's the queen, the king, the non-binary God of greed, anger, and delusion, of someone, of some place, of some situation, some experience. Beautiful women, beautiful men, sexuality, delicious food, special movies, wealth, power, status. Over there, you getting something, you avoiding something. These are the tricks of the trade of Mara. The Buddha met Mara. And the more that you practice seriously, the more that Mara will take an interest in you. Mara will come around, holding some idea in front of you. Oh, no. See, Mara doesn't want you to know, oh, you had thought that. That's it. Next time, see you next time. Oh, you had thought that. Knock, knock, who's there? Nobody's there. Didn't you already know that? But Mara doesn't do like that. Mara says, oh, you had thought that, but did you know about this? Did you think about that? Okay? Mara is the saleswoman. Mara is the trickster, the beggar, the deviant, the devotee of desire, the devotee of greed, the devotee of delusion. And Mara wants you to accompany her into the world of desire, into the world of fear, into the world of stories and complicated thoughts and attractive and unattractive images. Until you can detach from the experience that you take possession for, you're not a good meditator. You might be a good trier, so keep trying, but you don't know about real meditation. All the people that, you will see this, I've seen this countless times, all the people that going around saying, I was practicing meditation and I had this experience, they don't got it. They don't know about it, okay? And if they can bring it up and then hear what I just say and say, okay, no problem. They got it, no problem. They can continue practicing meditation. But when you are stuck on the attachment to someone that experienced something at some place, at some time, and had some experience, then you are trapped in the wrong meditation, Mara's work. Okay? That's okay. If we see an animal that's trapped somewhere, why don't we think about releasing that animal? If we see a person that's trapped, we don't beat them. Oh, you got trapped. No, that's a point for compassion. But letting them know that they're trapped, that can give them a chance to release themselves if they assume up a self. It's not necessary to assume up a self. Where is someone? Where is someone? Okay? Just because people or the culture or the community or you had thought that doesn't mean that there is necessary to be someone in this case, in this situation. Does seeing require someone? Okay, the Mara's advocate. Of course, of course, of course. Okay, well, what about when you close your eyes? Of course, of course, of course, of course. Well, what about when you're dead? What is you? What is the self? Okay? What is someone? What is the non-story element of direct experience? Well, it's all over the place. Is the self here? Hello? What are you doing here? You know, now you're biting off your fingertips. Can you hear a self? Where are the words and phrases in concrete walls, in air conditioning? And the understander, which is a common archetype for the Western world, and especially for educated people, I can't tell you how many understanders walk into a coffee shop every day. You wouldn't believe. Okay? The understander is an agent of Mara. The understander is an agent of illusion. Not someone doesn't understand something, doesn't need to. Not someone doesn't rely on understanding. Non-self doesn't rely on understanding. No self doesn't rely on self. Impermanence doesn't rely on permanence. Permanence relies on impermanence. Someone relies on not someone. Someplace relies on not someplace. This is correct reasoning, correct logic. As far as logic can go, as far as someone can understand, as far as someone can speak about these things. We take a scientific point of view to facilitate us to detach from our wrong understanding, to detach from our identity as a man or a woman or an understander or a wealthy person or a poor person or an adult or a child, to detach from that understanding and to start doing good deeds. Why does everything need to be about making money? I don't want to get a job. I don't want to sell this body and mind for labor hours. Why does this body and mind have to do that? Why does that body and mind have to do that? Why are the answers to meaningful questions put on a multiple choice postcard? Why don't we question the reins in which we've been saddled? The assumed up we. Because really, what is this? What is this experience happening now? What is even an experience? Hey, ho! What are you doing here? Get out! To a ghost is not important. What is important is to detach from the idea that you have about ghosts, and the idea that you have about what people say, and the idea that you have about what you see. Just seeing, that's the training. Just hearing, that's the training. Just, oh, you had thought that, or oh, you had said that, hadn't you? Oh, I had. Let's have tea, let's go for a walk, let's do good deeds. Someone is bound to be controlled by someone. Not someone is bound to be controlled or not controlled, because already not someone by not someone. No problem. It's already no problem. If not someone is bound to be controlled by not someone, that's not a problem. If not someone is bound to not be controlled by not someone, or rather it would be not be controlled by someone, that's not a problem. So someone is the problem. But you had thought, many people had thought that someone was that, when actually someone, the problem was this someone. The someone of the assumed up based on grasping, based on ignorance and attachment, within the assumed up your own mind. Now, just because you can't understand the theory because maybe you don't have a high IQ, or maybe you are not listening very well, maybe you're multitasking, maybe you don't speak English. Had you thought about that? Not everyone needs to speak English. It doesn't mean that you can't feel the reiki, the energy of mindfulness and detachment, the energy of peacefulness, the energy of abiding in non-contrivance, abiding in non-grasping. Let me get a hallelujah. Let me get an amen. And then when we get a feeling that's just bellissimo, we follow up with the practice that relates to that feeling. Now, we've got to remember there's a dukkha addict in you. There's a dukkha addict in me. So there's a lot of feelings that go along with feeling very bad. And yet, because there's pleasure in it, we can't control, we can't renounce, we can't detach, we can't step back. And then we get ourselves into these cycles of losing our peace, losing our freedom. Buddhism is not about losing our freedom. Buddhism is about not someone being free. We don't need to fear criticism, because criticism is not criticizing us. Criticism is criticizing itself. You see? Criticizing is just criticizing itself. It's not criticizing you, it's not criticizing me, it is just criticizing itself. And the story or the idea, the context or the convincing, whatever else goes along with that, is just sauce on a bagel. So if you don't like bagels, the sauce on the bagel doesn't matter. Someone says, hey, this is a bagel. I don't like bagels, but there's sauce on it. Well, do I have to call Bante Warapano? And they'll say, no, you don't. Okay, you don't like bagels, all right. So if you don't like bagels, then when someone starts to tell you about what sauce they're putting on the bagel, walk away. Detach from that. Don't believe in that. Don't follow that around. Okay? Some people like bagels. Some people like criticism. But if you don't like criticism, then don't get involved with that. Don't believe in that. Don't indulge that. And there's also some side, some people really have very little capacity to, manage their mind because they don't practice generosity. You've got to be generous, generous. Do good deeds every day. Generous, generous. Do good deeds whatever way. You got to do it like that. And because doing good deeds can be contrived, you need to focus on doing actions of generosity, whatever you can, okay? And we can do good deeds together, all right? We can collaborate, we can communicate, we can figure out a way to do good deeds together. So because a lot of people don't have this capacity, because they don't exercise generosity, it means that they also have some blame. Because someone will start criticizing, or someone will start being involved in toxicity or negativity or judgment or evil, self-fixated evil. And then that other person, because they don't have any power of generosity, they just go along with that. They try to talk with them about that, but actually they're still attaching to the criticism, the notion that criticism is good, or the notion that being aggressive or trying to harm someone else is good. So you have to develop the power of detachment so that when those people come up with that, you say, no, it's not that I disagree with you. I don't like bagels. I don't eat bagels. I don't play that. I don't play that game. You better watch out. Okay, but we can do that in all kinds of different ways with the power of detachment. But until you, here, until you can take something that's valuable to you, like your money, like your precious, precious money, okay, and start giving it away, start donating it, start offering it out, sharing it out, okay, then you will not access detachment. You won't have access to it. Now, if you're a car mechanic, okay, here. That's a skilled wealth value position. So you go out there and you volunteer and you help for people. You give away your mechanic abilities. But most people are not going to get off their couch, and they're not going to sacrifice, they're not going to surrender, they can't follow precepts, but what you can do is practice generosity. Donate money, donate possessions, donate properties, give it away, sacrifice it, surrender it unto the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. That's generosity, that's dana. That's good to do. We can build meditation centers. We can support the work of the sasana, of the Buddhist community. We can put some food in Bante's belly. But this premise, this notion, it's really, really important of sacrifice, of surrender, of giving up. I'm sitting here, there's something that I want, there's something that'll be very pleasurable, there's something that's very desirable and valuable over there, and technically it's mine, means it's in my control, it means myself can get that. Okay? I sacrifice it. I surrender unto the Buddha. I surrender unto mindfulness and detachment. I surrender unto doing good deeds limitlessly and continuously, concerned with not someone. Okay? I surrender the reification of someone. Personal property, personal ownership. Do some reparations. Reparations to the Native Americans, maybe go to their casinos. Reparations to black people in West Baltimore. Okay? Payback. It's time for the payback, the get back. Because what you do, you get back. So when you practice generosity, you get back non-grasping. Generosity is non-grasping in action. Bhante is big and strong because Bhante has surrendered, Bhante has sacrificed, Bhante has given away, given up, given out. Okay? Those possessions, those properties, those relationships, those businesses, those involvements. And I continue to do so, so that I that's being assumed up at this moment is healthy and wealthy. In what? In mindfulness and detachment, in renunciation. So for lay people, when they practice generosity, they're basically practicing renunciation. They get the benefits of renouncing that which they hold on to. But a lot of people think that generosity is like you're buying something. It's the opposite of that. You're sacrificing something. Okay, Bogdan has a big problem. They're a bad person. They want to please everybody. Generous, forget about my needs. This is not generosity. Generosity is sacrifice. Generosity is not about pleasuring other people. That's what having a girlfriend is about, having a boyfriend is about. That's what having a boss at your work is about. Okay, pleasuring people, doing what other people want you to do. That is not what generosity is about. Generosity is about detachment. You give up, you give away, you sacrifice. And if you're a Buddhist, concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, concerned with doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment. Because doing good deeds that's not concerned with wisdom is not as reliable. The Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is the most reliable wisdom tradition. Mindfulness and detachment tradition. And it is a conversation, it is a discussion, it is a questioning and a looking into. But generosity is not about meeting the desires of other people. It can be about meeting the needs of others. But if you're approaching it in that way, you should be ready to exhaust yourself. Because the amount of needs that are out there are overwhelming. And when you do those good deeds, or when you try to meet the needs of the others, you do only, you give only, you help only, you serve only. There's no interpersonal relationship, there's nothing added, there's no complicated thinking that's added on top of that. That's an important element. Questions? Questions or sharing experience? This is the important and meaningful position. There is a fundamental difference between I did that or I do that and doing only and not doing only. It's a delicate difference. It's very delicate. And not everyone believes in this. Okay, this is a Buddhist thing. This is kind of an out there thing. Not everyone believes in this. Not everybody has to believe in this. Which is important that we digest, because usually we do. We want to go big, right? You know, I'm Bhante. I want to be the Buddhist Jake Paul, right? I want to be the Buddhist Mr. Beast. Not going so well. But actually, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. That's nonsense. Because developing peace and power, okay, within oneself, the power of mindfulness and detachment is in the face of impermanence, in the face of death, in the face of a society and a world that says, well, you know what? This is my time. This is my stuff. And I don't know who you think you are walking around in that robe, but I'm someone. And that's our ego. That's the self. That's the grasping and attachment coming up again and again and again and again, or that's Mara, making up this trick, making up this lie that somehow getting what you want or chasing that desire around or trying to avoid that difficulty, trying to avoid that pain, that unpleasantness is somehow going to create peace or create freedom or give what is lacking. But what is lacking is chasing after something else. And this power and this truth is more important than nuclear weapons. And it's more important than money as well. And we need to cultivate the mindset, not of an influencer, not as a salesman, not as a content creator or a person that people like. We need to cultivate the mindset, the perspective of a mother holding their only child. That one person is enough. That's your baby. Not just, even to say that they're enough is strange. That's everything. And this moment or this self, this not someone, this opportunity, this human birth, coming into this human beingness, is the opportunity to become enlightened, to realize not someone, to realize the truth of not someone, of ever new impermanent nature. And as frustrating as it sounds, there is some truth in that it will take time. But in the midst of it taking time, you don't need to be shy about correlating your beliefs with the truth. Because the Buddha did say that no self, not someone, is concerned with the truth. Impermanence is concerned with the truth. And we can start bringing this mathematic formula of wisdom into our perspective, into our daily life, into how we refresh and restart and continue. And we should. We should continue. It's worthwhile. And the respect that is given to monks is about them continuing, right? Because that monk can't have a job. They can't make money. I don't know how I would make money, but I'm not allowed to do that. I can't have a relationship, girlfriend, partner in that way, right? And I also can't just take off my robe and go and have a beer, or even have a beer at my own place. So there's this constant pressure cooker of commitment to renunciation, to the life of a monk, to the context of the precepts, to really the context of Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila, Bhavana, Dana, Sila, Bhavana, Samadhi, Panya. This is heavy stuff. And so we support the monks to continue doing this. I recently heard about a monk, very, very famous monk, who apparently told his supporters and his community that he was going to be disrobing pretty soon. So I don't know if that's I didn't hear that firsthand, but if he does do that, it's really going to make a big splash. And you'll see a lot of these people who live as monks cannot continue because of how difficult it is to keep this pressure on the head. And it's a certain kind of pressure that says you cannot go and try to get your desire, because that doesn't work, and that's not what being a monk is about. And you cannot simply try to avoid that which is uncomfortable, because that is just perpetuating suffering, and that is not what being a monk is about. So it is like, okay, and this is a lot of this is really difficult when it comes to spirituality, but it's precisely like this. Imagine that you've got someone who loves basketball, and they've been playing basketball with their friends at their house, and they think that they've understood basketball at a very deep level. Now you put them on the court with collegiate level basketball players or NBA level basketball players or high school level basketball players or whatever. Now you find out what the deal is. If you're just sitting in your house and eating cheeseburgers and getting high on weed and saying, isn't it just this? Isn't everything just this? You don't know what you're talking about. Now, is the truth still the truth? Of course it is. But how much have you invested in the truth concerned with sacrifice? Because if the truth is just this, why are you listening to me? Why do you suffer so much? Why is your life such a dream? If the truth is just the truth, then why is that little mouse over there making crystal noises? It's just like that. So there's a lot of ways to view it. But in Buddhism, we view it in a certain kind of practicality about maintaining the Enlightenment tradition. We consider that people who endeavor to live virtuous lives full time are valuable. We support them, and we give a lot of reverence to the way of meditation and the cultivation of wisdom. So there's different cultures, there's different societies, there's different ways of going about things, and usually your voice is as relevant in a community as much as you show up and get involved with that community, right? As much as you're a donor, as much as you're a volunteer, as much as you're a serious practitioner, as much as you're a monk in that community, or whatever, as much as you're a teacher, or as much as you're a student, or whatever. The Western issue, the American issue, is that we live such blah nonsense lives, such amorphous lives when it comes to community. Well, where's your community? Game of Thrones. Where's your community? Tyra Banks. Where's your community? Watching NBA. So that is really convenient for people who run Walmarts and for people who own McDonald's franchises and sell alcohol, but it's not really convenient for people who want to develop communities around Buddhism or meditation, right? And we live in this consumption-based culture where we say, we've got everything. We've got tons of meditation centers. We've got tons of spiritual teachings because look at YouTube. We've got tons of monks. Look at YouTube. But in the real lived experience on the ground, there are very few meditation centers in America. There are very few monks in America. There are very few community structures in America that aren't based around capitalism. And Buddhism is not based around capitalism, excuse me. Mr. President, whoever you are. So, the more that you get involved, related to sacrifice, related to generosity, that's the more that you're going to experience, like the kind of momentum of your involvement that brings you to development. How else are you going to do it? And the skill gap, or the skill development, the skill level, the skill tree in Buddhism is so deep, so rich, so extensive, that you should just keep sacrificing and investing and buying into and putting yourself out there, attending meditation retreats, listening to Dhamma talks, being in community with monks and nuns, becoming a monk or a nun, etc. As a donor, as an organizer, as a volunteer, as a helper. You know, fuck consumerism. That's not what this is about. Excuse me. Okay? You went to a meditation retreat, or you bought some program, or you got a mindfulness certificate. Now you're going to be a teacher. This is about community built and based on generosity, mindfulness and detachment, dana, sila, bhavana, samadhi, panya, the truth. And, this isn't about people developing new ego identities. This is about sweat. This is about work. This is about getting involved. And that is, it doesn't need to be about, my idea, do I want to make a meditation center or something? Or, what am I doing? What am I involved with? It's about dana, sila, bhavana. That's how serious you should to be about it. That's what it takes. That's what it's about. It's not a new bracelet. It's not a new TV. It's not a new thing to add to your identity from time to time. Dive into it. Let's, save the children. And what it's going to take to do that is empowered people. And the highest system for empowerment of human beings in human history, concerned with virtue, generosity, ethics, meditation, absorption into meditation, and then insight through meditation, is the Buddha Sasana, the Triple Gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Come on. That's what it is. That's what it's got to be. That is inclusive of mathematics and sciences and all kinds of different things. Doesn't exclude those. People who are watching on TikTok, if you want to continue watching, please go over to the YouTube channel, okay? Because the TikTok is going to be turned off. Oh, I was just disconnecting the live stream on TikTok. So that TikTok live stream is being disconnected. So I told those people to go over to the YouTube channel. you should try to follow and listen. The more that we can detach from our own personal understanding by listening to the monk or the teacher that has the right understanding, the more that we can develop the right understanding. If you can listen to me, then you should try to listen to me more. Because it's not reliable. Your mind, your decision making, what you like to do, what you want to do is not reliable. So you should try to connect with and listen to and follow someone that is more experienced or more reliable. And you should do that now, not in general, not as a part of like a self-help routine. You found water, so just drink it and be content with having drunk the water. Secular Buddhism is not, this kind of Buddhism that's been taken out of Myanmar and Thailand and the Buddhist countries. Not really reliable in the same way that Buddhism that has not been stripped down is reliable. If you can give up what you do, and if you can do more of what you are shy to do or don't dare to do, concerned with generosity, then you will have the space to listen to that which is not about someone. But someone does not give. Someone buys. Someone sells. Someone receives. Someone does not give. So break the chain of someone in doing actions of generosity, in giving, in volunteering, in serving, in detaching from your own understanding and doing what you're told to do. This is a powerful, powerful practice, and this is for the long term. I am doing this for the long term, and the people that that are following me in whatever ways will have to deal with that this is for the long term. This is not for the short term. This isn't a quick fix. Becoming devoted to mindfulness and detachment, becoming devoted to Buddhism. Becoming devoted to detaching from our own understanding. That is how right understanding will develop within oneself. If you cannot detach from your own understanding, then you can never develop beyond that. Your development will always be in relationship to your own personal understanding. But development in Buddhism, development of wisdom, insight, is not about someone, not about someone's understanding. And this is a rare and precious approach, not to be taken lightly. This is a well-known approach. This isn't something that's just, being pulled out. This is a serious approach. And what goes along with that is that anyone who's so serious about this that they're sick to their stomach, well, we're here, we're waiting for you. So that's how serious I am about it, and that's how serious my teacher is about it, and that's what we're doing, And not everybody agrees with that, but if you want to start a meditation center in America, we will support you to do that. If you want to come and be a volunteer or full-time meditator or yogi, or you want to become a monk for some period of time, you just come. Come here to India, Bodh Gaya, India, or next year, this 3-month retreat will be in America. So people will have the chance to come and visit in America, in California, and probably we will travel around from place to place, teaching, meditation, giving Dhamma talk, having Dhamma discussion. But not many people are equipped to have Dhamma discussion, really, with people who have some insight or know what they're talking about. Or even to, people who are honest, people who are really don't over-aggrandize themselves, really not even in a position to facilitate or do much kind of leading. Most people are not in a position to be a leader, but everyone kind of wants to be a leader in some way. Actually, to become a leader, really, this is actually very, very true. To become a leader, one first has to detach from being a leader. You can only be a leader once you know how to be a follower. Only followers can become leaders, because if you don't know how to be a follower, then how can you teach as a leader for people who are not yet followers to be followers? Right? To shut up and listen and get on the boat, get in the car, we're going. Right? Because that has to be taught, that has to be explained, that has to be shared. And when someone gets confused or has something to say or has some disagreement, to know how to deal with that skillfully is very difficult. And we learn through failure, we learn through mistake, we learn through not doing things ideally, and then we lose supporter, or we lose follower, or we lose a certain kind of spiritual friendship. But we have to go through that first. We have to go through those difficulties. We have to go through those misunderstandings. And really, there's not a lot of context to do that in most Western circles. There's just not a lot of spiritual communities out there. There's not a lot of meditation centers out there that are really open, right? That are 24/7, that are for everyone, not just for programs. I don't buy into that I don't like that kind of stuff. Okay, you need to sign up a form and come join this retreat and da 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 da. Come and see. That's what the Buddha said. This is to be come and seen. You don't have to fill out a form. Okay? I'll fill out the form for you to get it out of the way. Or I'll explain to you why you need to fill out the form, but it's not actually about that. It's, yeah, I mean, to some degree, yeah, that's true. To really get into Buddhism, to really penetrate into what Buddhism is about, to get a little bit of a muscle on your bones when it comes to Buddhism, you need a mentor, you need a teacher, you need a community, you need real experiences. You need someone talking to you like this, or you need to be in a community that's kind of you're vibing into. But really, I think you need someone that talks to you like this, something like that, that's willing to talk with you for a few minutes and just, say you're full of shit. Because once someone really listens to you and then tells you that you're full of shit, but it's not because they're trying to argue with you or saying you're a bad person, they're just trying to show you something else, that's the open door. And then it's just up to you to see how far you want to go in that. Unless they're trying to sell you something, and then, that's what people also like. People want to be sold something. They want to buy into something, right? They want to buy a meditation class. Well, I don't sell anything. And I don't want to convince people of anything. When I talk about Buddhism, when I talk about opportunities, when I talk about the way of approach, when I talk about Buddhist theory and philosophy, I'm really trying to share a scaffolding for one to develop enough faith to practice. And through that practice, and as that practice, to cultivate mindfulness and detachment, and to find out what that is through experience. Skillful means that skillful is reliable. Skillful is strength and able, right? Strength and applicable. So if you're just strong, but that strength isn't applicable, well, that's not skillful. If you have a technical skill, but you don't have strength behind it, that's also not very applicable. So skillfulness is kind of there's a wholeness to it. There's a faculty to it that is very applicable now. But the now in Buddhism is mainly about the suffering, or encouraging people to understand about reality or to detach, right? No self. The Buddha taught no self. The Buddha taught impermanence. So the Buddha taught dukkha. So a lot of problems that people have are that they take what is not reliable and what is not satisfactory to be reliable and satisfactory. Your life and your relationship are never going to satisfy you. So don't attach to them. They take what is impermanent to be permanent, but nothing is permanent. So when you hold on to it as if it were permanent, that's a problem. That's unskillful. When you take something that is not self, not someone, to be someone, that is a suffering, that is a problem. That is going to create all kinds of difficulties, right? And this is why it is said that the Dhamma is the greatest gift, because the Dhamma is concerned with the truth. The Dhamma is concerned with the release, with the resolution of nonsense, of wrong views. Okay? Listen to me. when I say this. Take all your Buddhist-themed nonsense and go and volunteer. That's what you should start with. Okay? If someone was approaching me like, "Hey, I want to be your student. Hey, I want to get my Buddhism pass." Okay? I would say, "Okay, take all of your Buddhism BS and your seriousness about it, your quote-unquote seriousness about it, and find an organization in your area where you can go and volunteer or serve, like a soup kitchen, like a homeless shelter, like a drug addict thing, whatever it is. And if you can go and do that, then we'll talk more." Go and do. Dana is the entry point to the path. Go and do actions of generosity. Go and serve. Go and donate. Go and feed monks at your local Buddhist temple. Okay? Go and volunteer. Sweep at the local Buddhist temple. Say, "Hey, I'm here to practice Dana. I'm here to volunteer. I'm here to serve. I want to know about Buddhism." A smiley face says, "To be enlightened, you have to train your mind to always listen to the heart." No. To be enlightened, you have to train your mind to eat shit. If you want to become enlightened, you need to learn how to eat shit. To face dukkha, to bite dukkha, to be with that which you don't want to be with, to not be with that which you want to be with. Listen to Your Heart is a Madonna song or something. A lot of those songs are telling lies, dangerous music. Okay? There's no streaming schedule. I don't do it. I won't do it. I'm not going to be bought. I'm not going to be paid for. I'm not going to be tied down. I'm a freewheeling monk. Watch out. Okay? Watch out. And thank you for the people that donate and support me to live as a monk in this way. People who donate every now and again, or people who donate monthly, thank you for supporting me and allowing me to live this life freely. And I'm doing my best. I really am, I'm not joking around here. You have to learn how to eat shit. You have to learn how to eat the suffering in your life. Wish I could do more. Get grooving, get moving, do it. Do it. You can give so much more than you think you can. You can serve so much more than you think you can. You can volunteer so much more than you think you can. You can do good deeds so much more than you think you can. Okay? That's amazing, JS. You're making a donation. Okay? Is that a baby donation? Is that a sweet baby donation? Of course it is. Okay? And that's wonderful. It's the heart. It's the consideration. All right? It's the sincerity. It's the offering. It's the giving away. But it's also be serious about that too. Right? Make it beautiful. Make it wonderful. Make it profound. Make our generosity incredible. And then let's deal with the problems. Let's deal with the problems that come from our incredible generosity. You feel me? Those are the kind of problems that can be celebrated. So thank you, JS. That's very sweet, very good. To make donation is good. To make donation to the monk, very good. And this also is an important part of what helps me and helps monks to continue. Because this is a form of affection. This is a form of care. This is a form of like mental, emotional, spiritual support that we rely on and inspires us. It helps, to feel that people value me being a monk and understand that there's a lot of sacrifice in this. And even though when I do a live stream, I might appear kind of this wacky and cool guy, there's a lot of facing demons. There's a lot of facing that desire and that chasing, that voice that says, go out there and be free, man. Go and be free from being a monk and having these responsibilities and having these precepts and having this role. Because when I'm in community, when I'm here with my, it's a very serious thing to be a monk. There's a lot of weight and importance and seriousness that goes along with wearing these robes in a community. And when you show support like that, it empowers me, it supports me to feel that, I'm not doing this alone. Okay, very cool. Very cool. A membership. I really don't know what the YouTube donation thing is about, but it definitely looks cool. And it's a very beautiful way to share. But best is still like a PayPal or Patreon, I think. But it's wonderful, very beautiful. You're a member. Congratulations. You get nothing. You get back nothing from being a member. It's okay. It's very good. Because we set our commitment, we set our sincerity, and then that's what we come back to. We come back to the sincerity of generosity rather than how can I get what I want. Very important. And then concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, concerned with Buddhism, very powerful. Smiley Face says, what's your opinion about God teaching about the law of one? Not two. Detach from the law of one is a mistake. WMD, you can just give me a call, on my phone number, or you can send me an email, whatever is convenient for you. If you go to the website, monklife.one, then there should be contact information there. There should be a lot of contact information there. Very good, Erica. Very good. Okay. Any questions or sharing experience before we finish today? Finish tonight. It's almost midnight here in Bodh Gaya, India. And what it means is that this eating shit or this, it means that we face difficulty, we face suffering, we endure it, we sit with it, right? It's like everything in the society is telling us, if you feel bad, try to get some pleasure. If you feel pleasure, make sure you try to avoid feeling pain. And then we're always watching TV and movies and all that. And it's not about going crazy with it, but it's about understanding how important shit is to making a garden. It's about understanding how important it is to face the suffering that's there in your life, to take a few deep breaths with it, to sit with it, to meditate on that uncomfortableness. Not to meditate, but just to sit and breathe with that and be with that, right? How important of an ingredient that is to cultivating happiness and to learning and understanding more about yourself, this assumed up self, this grasping self, so that no self becomes more clear. And don't think about it. If you want to think about it, don't. Just do it. It's not a philosophy, it's not a belief system. Stop running away from problems and start doing good deeds. Not about accepting them. Accepting things is about credit cards, right? Do they accept Visa? Do they accept Discover? Don't try to think about it. Don't make it into a philosophy. Don't ask questions from that point of view. Stop running away from problems. Stop trying to just accept things and start doing good deeds. Clean your room, go for a walk, listen to a Dhamma talk, explore the hundreds of videos on this channel, check out the monklife.one website, explore, look around. What's going on here? What's this guy's vibe? Where's this coming from? Where's this energy from? What's this about? Don't just sit on the sidelines, but going deeper into it. Who's Ajahn Brahm? Who's Thich Nhat Hanh? What's on the monklife.one website? What does it mean to do good deeds, to go and clean my toilet, to take myself for a walk, to download the Plum Village app on the App Store? Listen closely, listen carefully. You've got to be strong, you've got to be skillful, because there's all these distractions, there's all these confusions, there's all these blockages, there's all these bright lights that are blinding the path. So you got to take it when it's there, write it down. What's this? What's the Plum Village app on the App Store? What's on the monklife.one website? No conversation. There's no conversation. There's no back and forth. It's a sword. It's a flower. It's semantics. Philosophy is just semantics. Unless you can detach from what you say and what you think, how are you ever going to detach, to abandon, to relinquish, to cut through what someone else thinks? And then we go arguing, discussing, back and forth. I think this, I think that. Well, what is the I? What is the self? What is this? Okay, let's practice a meditation together. So firstly, find your comfortable, stable position. What it means is like your body is a big bag of potatoes. Body is a big bag of potatoes. And you want to sit that body down, just like you would sit down a big bag of potatoes. It doesn't need to be a special position. It doesn't even need to be like upright. But it just, when you put a bag of potatoes down, you don't put it on the top stair and now it's falling down. You put it in kind of like a simple, stable place. So put your body down in a place like that. Somewhat simple, somewhat stable. You can close the eyes gently, softly. Meditation here is just aware. And instead of making thoughts you, let breathing be the you for now. So just all the you energy, all the self, I'm meditating, I'm someone, da da da. Just let the breath replace that. So just breathing, aware of the whole body as a big pile of potatoes just sitting, not moving around. And let that awareness, that bag of potatoes awareness, breathing awareness, even go beyond the body. So not just aware of the whole body sitting here, but also like the outside of the body, the room is also there. You can allow the mind to be aware of that too. The body, room, mind. Let the whole body and mind relax. And wherever there isn't relaxation, offer some kind of, relaxed awareness to that place that isn't relaxed. Support that place that isn't relaxed in your heart, in your mind, in the body, mind, room, experience, awareness, to relax. Offer kindness to anything, any place that's not fully relaxed. Let the breath become rich and subtle and kind of full of presence. Breathe in amazement of just experiencing body, mind, breath, room, everything. Breathe it in, breathe it out. And so any thinking or any choice that comes up, notice it and immediately allow breathing to take over. And then from breathing to awareness of the whole body, just sitting here, relaxing, being kind. And then the whole breathing, body, mind, environment, just being here. Just breathing aware. And any place that has rough, tough, tense, a little bit of pain, you can move a little bit, but also just exercise that kindness to uncomfortableness at this time. And smile, be happy, enjoy this moment. This is a happiness moment. This is a joyful moment. Breathing in so much joy and breathing out so much peace and safety. Whole body and mind relax, letting go, letting go, letting go. Anything, everything, just breathing. Whole body and mind, environment, aware. Breathing, aware, relaxing, offering kindness. I'll share a mantra with the group. You can repeat after me. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. Within the island, there is so much peaceful awareness. Breathing out, whatever I notice, I offer kindness. The island within myself is aware and full of kindness. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. Breathing out, I smile to all the shit in my life. Breathing in, I feel that peacefulness is already alive within me. Breathing out, I smile as I forgive myself. Breathing in, I visualize the inner child, the baby of myself, maybe 5 or 6 or 7-year old. Breathing out, I tell that baby one not to worry anymore. Breathing in, I hold the inner child of myself within my heart. Breathing out, I allow the inner child of myself to flow throughout my body and to feel at peace, connected to me. Exhaling, a big exhale, letting all the oxygen out of my lungs. Breathing in, a big inhale, visualizing any shadow, any darkness, any fear, any negativity within myself. Breathing out, transparent clarity, shimmering fractals of crystal light, diamonds, rubies, sapphires of peacefulness and surrender. May all beings throughout space and time, may all different aspects of myself, whether good or bad, deep or shallow, fearful or desireful, may all the aspects of myself be liberated, peacified, forgiven, loved, pacified. May I feel at peace within myself when I'm uncomfortable. May you feel at peace within yourself when you are uncomfortable. May all beings and all aspects of uncomfortableness be opportunities for mindfulness and detachment. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. truly that will bring an end to our Dharma talk and our guided meditation. If you have any questions or you'd like to share your experience, you're welcome to do so now. Any questions or sharing your experience? Cough away. All right then, dear friends, dear fellow people, or not someones on the path, thank you for being here. Thank you for the donations made during the live stream, and also for the donors over the past week. May you be happy, healthy, wealthy, peaceful, and free of fullness, or full of the freeness from suffering. If you do enjoy and think that this is a meaningful talk and useful, please feel invited to leave a like on this video. It helps more people to come across this video. You can also leave a comment or leave a like on other videos on this YouTube channel. And you can learn more at monklife.one. And you should see in the description of the video, you should see a link. Okay? That's it. Be well, be happy, be peaceful. Use your peace, use your happiness, use your wellness to be generous and to help the others, okay? Take care. Well, maybe we shouldn't stop just yet. Maybe there's a bit more to say here. Maybe now's not the right time to stop. Because that document that I've been talking about, now may be a good time to share a little bit of that document. Now, when I was in South Korea recently, I visited a wonderful temple, modern kind of project for the propagation of Buddhism called Just Be Temple in Seoul, in South Korea. And I saw a book on the ledge or on the bookcase, kind of in the library there, by a Korean Zen master named Gyonghyo Sunim, who is a patriarchal Korean Zen master. And this text is kind of a compilation of his teachings, and one of the documents within this text is what I'd like to read to the community now. This was a letter to Master Dungyam. Everybody ready? Are we awake and aware? Are you ready? Those on TikTok, we're going to turn off the TikTok live stream right now. Please go over to the YouTube channel if you want to follow for this portion of the document. Okay, can everyone still hear me all right? Because I had to plug in a power bank because the phone starts to run out of battery. Can everyone hear me okay? Before we get into this, it's important that you'll be able to hear me. Otherwise, you won't understand or know what I'm saying. Okay. So this is a letter from Zen Master Gyong-hyo, Korean Zen Master Gyong-hyo to Dungyam. And this is not a kind of ancient Zen master. This is a Zen master that lived in the past 100 years or so. You know, this is a very recent master of our era. So it's quite a good opportunity to kind of get very alive but very deep teachings. To Master Dungyam. Buddha preached the great discourse on the 5 basic precepts and 10 virtues for the people to be born in the human and heavenly realms. Very deep and clear teaching. Hold on. I've got some oil here. The mind has a really powerful capacity to trick through assumption and through feeling like you understand it, and then you make a judgment about what you don't actually understand. So be careful about that. So the Buddha preached the great discourse, the great teaching on the 5 basic precepts and 10 virtues for the people to be born in the human and heavenly realms. So the 10 virtues, that's going to be compassion and patience and gentleness and generosity and forgiveness, all this kind of jazz, right? These really important teachings. And the 5, who knows what the 5 basic precepts are? Come on, quick. What are the 5 precepts in Buddhism? If you don't know it, just say that as well. Quick, quick, quick. What are the 5 precepts in Buddhism? And if you don't know it, that's the answer for you. So you can say that answer as well. And this is not lighthearted stuff. We're not, I don't go into those kind of teachings. This is the high level, this is the highest level of spiritual teachings that you can get in the entire world. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Okay, 5 precepts. Those people who are asking about what to do as a Buddhist and how to get started with Buddhism, firstly, go and do good deeds. Go and do actions of generosity. That's number 1. Do that. But once you start doing that, then the Buddha taught 5 basic precepts, guidelines for living. Don't kill. Don't steal. Don't lie or speak harshly. Be very careful with your sexual energy, okay? Sexual activity. Don't take intoxicants. Don't smoke the reefer. Don't smoke grass. Don't drink the zippy juice, okay? Don't take meth. Don't take cocaine. Don't take heroin. All that stuff. Don't get high, kids. Don't get high, anyone. So listen to what this says here. Buddha preached the great discourse on the 5 basic precepts and 10 virtues for the people to be born in the human and heavenly realms. This is the deep spiritual teaching here, friends. When you do bad, how do you feel? Aaron, you don't know the 5 precepts, you do now, but you know this. Aaron, when you do bad, how do you feel? Quick, come on. Come on, Aaron. When you do bad, how do you feel? When you do bad, how do you feel? You feel bad. And when you do good, how do you feel? You feel good, okay? And generosity is good and selfishness is bad. Now, don't listen to those philosophical lunatics that want to come in and say, what's good, what's bad, da, 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 da. We're not talking about that. We're talking about being good and strong and helping others and real generosity and real selfishness, which is you're just doing for yourself. When you do those bad things, overeating, smoking drug, doing bad sexual activity, masturbating every day, that's that selfishness, right? So you're not doing good. Now, what about these realms? People say, I'm going to tell people what it is, okay? Hands up, don't shoot. I'm going to tell people what rebirth is about. When you do good, oh my goodness gracious. When you do good, you feel good, you're in a good realm. When you do bad, you feel bad, you're in a bad realm. You were in this moment doing bad, and you were having that kind of experience. And now the cause and effect has led you to be in another moment, only it's not the same you, it's similar kind of you, but it's a new you, and now you're in a corresponding realm according to what you do. What you do, you get back. When you do good, you get back good. When you do bad, you get back bad. And I've always shared this kind of analogy with people. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this before, but I've experienced that I'll be doing good for a while. I'll be a good boy, and everything in life is kind of just hanging out and going well. And then I'll be a bad boy. And when I be a bad boy, the next day I wake up, and now the bad stuff's coming outside from the world that I have to deal with. So we come into these different realms of existence according to our actions, right? And the self, as an assumption, continues from one moment to the next, right? You were born, and then you'll be that self until you die, as an assumption. But the self as an experience doesn't exist in that way, right? But you have to drop the assumption to start looking into the experience of what is a self. Now listen to this, because this is a lot deeper than you may imagine it to be. Buddha preached the great discourse on the 5 basic precepts and 10 virtues: compassion, kindness, patience, forgiveness, all this jazz, for the people to be born in the human and heavenly realms. So to be born as a human being like we are, and also to be born in like a heavenly realms where kind of a lot of power, a lot of freedom, a lot of pleasure, all these kinds of things. Okay? The Buddha preached the 4 noble truths for the people to attain the stage of Arahat. Now, we talked about the 4 noble truths at the beginning of this stream, right? There is suffering, there's a cause of suffering, which is our desire. There's an ending of suffering, which is peace, nibbana, peacefulness, freedom. Then there's a path to the ending of suffering. Eightfold path, we can call it dana, sila, bhavana, samadhi, panya. We can call it that. Preached the 12 links of interdependent origination for the people to attain the vehicle of the solitary awakening. So the 12 links of interdependent origination, we can say, is that instead of talking about this and that, right? So we're talking about Donald Trump, and we're talking about this cup of water, and why is this cup of water like this, etc., and the power bank, and etc., etc. Instead of all this and that, all these things, all these stories, all these dualities built on each other, the Buddha taught that this is because of that. So step by step, or cause and effect, right? Because you did bad, you get back bad. Because you are ignorant, that's why you experience, that's why you have the wrong view. It's very complicated. You can't understand it. Maybe I don't even understand it. I don't know. But anyway, we can continue, even if we don't understand. Preached the 4 great vows and 6 paramitas for the people to perfect the way of the Bodhisattva. Now, the 4 great vows, let me do them for you now. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. So those are the 4 great vows of the Bodhisattva. And so and the 6 paramitas is meditation, wisdom, practice, zeal, generosity, precepts, and basic stuff. So basically we can say in the Theravada school that the highest degree of enlightenment that people aspire to is the enlightenment of an arahant. And an arahant is someone who is at peace unconditionally, fully, for themselves. They've attained enlightenment or have attained awakening for themselves completely. A bodhisattva is someone who kind of vows to put off their own enlightenment for the benefit of others, to help others, to enlighten others. That's a very simple way to understand it. Okay? And so that's in the kind of the Mahayana. So the Buddha preached the 4 great vows, the 6 paramitas, for people to perfect the way of the Bodhisattva, to bring benefit, to bring enlightenment to all beings. And then the Buddha preached these 12 links of interdependent origination for the people to attain awakening for themselves. Preach the 4 Noble Truths, people to attain the stage of Arhat. Really, what this section here is about is that there is a research element here. If we get serious about something, if we get serious about meditation, we get serious about Buddhism, we want to kind of slowly but surely, we want to get involved to such a degree where we learn about these terms. And we learn about the different aspects of the tradition, the philosophy, just to enrich us, and learn about all these different approaches that have existed throughout Buddhist history. So many different elements of the theory and approaches of theory. Okay? And you can ask your questions as we go along. And you can also share if this is not reaching you, if I need to slow down, if this is not skillful, if this is not helping you, just make that clear. But also just a deep listening. Now we do have a question here, and we can step on that. So the question is, and this is an honest question, will a 10-day Vipassana retreat bring you closer to enlightenment? No. No, it will not. Will working 10 days at your job get you an award at your job? No. And even if it did get you an award, then you'd get fired afterwards because, you didn't keep working there. You only went for 10 days. So these retreats can give us a lot of bun. When we go to a meditation retreat and we do a lot of meditation, we get a lot of merit from that, because doing meditation is one of like the highest good deed that we can do, because we are facing the suffering. We're facing the reality of our experience, and that's what the Buddhism is talking about, the reality of our experience. And the more that you examine that, the more workable that situation will be, right? To live in the right way. So the 10-day meditation retreat is going to give you some experience, but it won't bring you closer to enlightenment. Just in the same way that it won't get you, going to your job for 10 days won't get you closer to a good retirement plan. You need to get concerned with, you need to get invested in. It's a full spectrum approach. The 10-day Vipassana retreat is just something, and that's a good thing. But it needs to be bigger than something, or it needs to be the biggest something, which is your life. And if the 10-day Vipassana retreat and going to that is a part of your whole life, being concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and the path to enlightenment, then yes, that will help as much as that's a part of your whole life, your whole approach. You're not going to get much success from a 10-day Vipassana retreat. but it's a good thing to do. 10 years, you get a little bit closer. A very small amount closer. Okay, listen to this. Buddha also preached to the bodhisattvas, who, by means of expedience, have performed the 4 great vows and 6 paramitas for eons, who have attained the stages of 10 kinds of reliance, 10 abodes of understanding, 10 actions of practice, 10 kinds of dedication and transference of one's merit for the other's benefits. Okay, so the Buddha preached all these teachings for people to be born in the human realm and have a chance to become enlightened, for people to become enlightened, for people to have a solitary awakening, for people to have an awakening that helped them to bring awakening to others. Buddha taught all these different methods, right, for people to wake up. And in Mahayana Buddhism, they tend to give a lot of high regard to the bodhisattvas because that's a nice idea, right? That someone is putting off their own enlightenment, their own peace, their own freedom to benefit others, to help others, and that they actually have a vow to do that. So some people put the bodhisattvas at a very high level of reverence and respect and appreciation. So the Buddha also preached to the bodhisattvas who, by means of skillfulness, have performed the 4 great vows and 6 paramitas for eons. So these bodhisattvas have been practicing at a very, very high level for eons. And think about that, right? Think about your inspiration about becoming enlightened. And then think about taking that inspiration to become enlightened and putting it on the side to benefit others, and then imagine doing that to this wonderfully high level where you've perfected your compassion, you've perfected your peace, you've perfected your generosity, you've perfected your practice, understanding, your dedication, your sharing the benefits with everyone. Yet, they still have not attained complete enlightenment. By doubting the true nature of conditioned things, and they do not know what to do when they hear about the law of formless form. What is the law of formless form? So something very interesting here, okay? So these bodhisattvas are these ultimate practitioners. You think about yourself. You're a normal practitioner. I'm a normal practitioner. I'm a human being. I wear this robe. I shave my head. I'm live streaming on YouTube. I'm running around. It's hot in India. I'm meditating. I'm following precept. I'm doing good deeds. But the Buddha preached to these bodhisattvas, these ultimate practitioners who've been practicing perfectly for eons, who've practiced perfect compassion and perfect generosity and perfect peace for eons. They've attained all the stages of understanding, of practice, of dedication, yet they still have not attained complete enlightenment. So wait a minute. What's going on here? These dudes, these gals, these y'all who've been practicing ultimately, incredibly for eons, yet they still have not attained complete enlightenment. By doubting the true nature of conditioned things. So what are conditioned things? Conditioned things are phenomena. Conditioned things are those things that rely on this is because of that. So how does this exist? This is a conditioned thing. The body is a conditioned thing. The mental state is a conditioned thing. meaning that this body exists in the way that it is because of cause and conditions. This body, everything, that's right, everything. Come on, everybody. This isn't my temple, okay? I'm a guest here. It's 1 a.m. in the morning, hour 3 of this Dhamma talk, hour 3 of doing good deeds. So, everything. So these great practitioners, these bodhisattvas, ultimate practitioners, ultimate bodhisattvas, and we're about to turn off the live stream on TikTok. So if you want to keep following along, please go over to the YouTube channel, okay? We're going to turn off the live stream on TikTok in just a moment here. We've got to charge up that phone. So they've been practicing perfectly and ultimately for eons. Now, yet, they've perfected all this, yet they still have not attained complete enlightenment by doubting the true nature of conditioned things, everything. And they do not know what to do when they hear about the law of formless form. This is very precious teaching. You don't understand this teaching. How arrogant can you be? These bodhisattvas have been practicing for eons. Do you know how long an eon is? 1 eon is the time that it would take for a mountain to be taken down to the bottom. If an eagle holding a silk cloth went around the world and wiped it, it would take an eon is the time that it would take for that mountaintop to be down to zero, to bare floor, Mount Everest to be to bare floor. By the time it would take from that eagle going around and around and at a normal speed, the earth, and clipping off with a silk cloth, that mountaintop. Bow before you think about things, and just keep bowing and shut up. Stop trying to get what you want. You God-forsaken lunatic. Can I get an amen? Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get a, I'm following along, Bhante. I'm trying to follow along. For God's sakes. Amen. By doubting the true nature of conditioned things. Buddha gives us some hints. I can't spell it out. I can't spell it out. But the Buddha gave us some signs, some marks. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Any conditioned thing is unsatisfactory. You're going to buy an unsatisfactory thing. You've got a little hunger. You go to the ice cream shop, they say, look, this stuff isn't gonna any good. You don't buy it, you don't grasp it, you don't get a hold of that. All things, all conditioned things, all things, anything, any word, any phrase, any nama rupa, name or form, impermanent. They say, you go to let's talk about a smartphone. You want to get a new smartphone. The new iPhone's coming out soon. Okay? So you say, look, I need to get that new iPhone. And you go there to the shop and they say, look, this new iPhone is a new feature. This thing's impermanent. This thing can vanish at any time, break down at any time. Really, we're not joking with you. You gonna buy that? No. And finally, that it's no self, anatta, that not to be owned, not to be possessed. It's like you go to you are the colonizer, you are the genocider. You go to the Native Americans and you say to them, look, just give us this land. And they say, this land is the nature and it cannot be owned by someone. What are you going to do? You're going to go around killing people? Huh? No title. No purchase. Nature, true nature. So these beings, even though they're so cool, they're so great, they're so strong, they're so awesome, they got it figured out, they did everything right, for eons, with compassion and all the good stuff that they're telling you to do, that you think is the right thing to do. Yet they still have not attained complete enlightenment by doubting the true nature of things. And they do not know what to do when they hear about the law of formless form. I can't take a drink of this because the mouse was making crystal sounds. Now listen to this, it goes on. They always retain the insight of seeking the Buddha, these bodhisattvas, but they're not fully enlightened. They always retain the insight of seeking the Buddha. So that's good. Retaining the insight of seeking the Buddha is retaining the insight of seeking what? Seeking the truth, seeking enlightenment, seeking freedom, seeking peace, seeking awareness, pure awareness. Instead of criticizing, instead of your commentary, your opinion, okay? You know where that goes. It goes in the toilet. And what do you want to be? Someone who's walking around with feces wrapped up in a napkin, okay? Listen, if you're watching on TikTok, please go to the YouTube channel. I'm turning that off right now. Same name as on TikTok. This is still my name. You know, I don't get to have this name if I stop being a monk. If I stop being a monk, I can't keep this name. So this is a name of renunciation. This isn't just a personal choice or something I do for fancy. Now we have a question here. We're not seeking God. This is a Buddhism situation. We're not seeking God. We don't do that. God is easy to understand. Buddha is difficult to understand. You thought seeking is suffering because you are unwilling to sacrifice or renounce, or you are not skillful in detachment when it comes to your life. Very good, Erica. Okay? You are grasping onto your understanding. You are grasping onto someone doing something at some place, at some time, at some situation. So you cannot surrender someone doing something at some place, at some time, which is what it is about, to become a monk, to detach from your life, to renounce your life, to abandon your life. But we don't need to be practical with it if we can be wise with it. But wisdom and practicality cannot be separated. And formless form is like water. So you can go with the flow or you can be eroded. Let's see if it works. Keep listening, keep shutting up. I need a little help here. Please let me know about this. Is the audio coming through more clearly now? Is it louder? Is it more clear? Is it less clear? Is it less loud? Hello? It's louder. Is it more clear also? Okay, great. So listen, we have to be a little bit more humble and a little bit more surrendering and a little bit more generous. Generosity tends to work all of this out, because when you approach this through generosity, you kind of find out naturally how serious you are about it. Whereas when you don't approach this through generosity, it's not clear at all how serious you are about it. It's just this ego game. It's always like, well, I want this and I want that, and I'm going to pick out this place, and maybe I can go this way, and maybe I'll be a monk. But when you approach it with generosity, kind of like how people in Southeast Asia or people who are in relationships with monks do, they realize, like, I don't want to give up my life. I don't want to surrender my personal identity. I don't want to be a monk, because I know what being a monk means. It means that I have to sacrifice or surrender what's more important to me than anything else, which is my identity, my personal control, my personal power, my identity as a lay person, as a normal person. So generosity fixes a lot of this. But if it's not fixed with generosity, which is a very difficult thing for Western people to do, to make donations, to practice generosity, concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, it's very difficult. Maybe it was much easier in like the 60s and stuff, but times have changed. So try to understand it like this. Buddhism isn't about being an idiot. So when we talk about being a serious Buddhist, or when we talk about being seriously on the path to enlightenment, we fixate on enlightenment. We take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. We desire to follow the path to enlightenment. We don't desire being a degenerate. We don't desire breaking precepts. We don't desire figuring things out on our own, because that doesn't work. And this practice and this path is about continuing with mindfulness and detachment, with generosity, with sila. bhavana, samadhi. And we need a lot of help to be able to do that, okay? So retaining the insight of seeking the Buddha means what? It's mindfulness. It means that they are always practicing mindfulness. And when they aren't mindful, they come back to mindfulness. They take refuge in mindfulness. Listen, let's go through this. Buddha preached the Great Discourse on the 5 basic precepts and 10 virtues for the people to be born in the human and heavenly realms. So if you follow the 5 basic precepts, if you live a virtuous life, you'll be born as a human being, you'll be born in heavenly realms. Preached the 4 noble truths for the people to attain the stage of Arahat. So if you follow and practice and realize the 4 noble truths, you will become an Arahant. Preached 12 links of interdependent origination, or paticca samuppada, for the people to attain the vehicle of the solitary awakening. Maybe you want to do that, so study interdependent origination. Preached the 4 great vows and 6 paramitas, generosity, precepts, patience, compassion, for the people to perfect the way of the Bodhisattva. The way of the Bodhisattva is the way of bringing benefit and enlightenment to all beings. Buddha also preached to the Bodhisattvas, who, by means of skillfulness, have performed the 4 great vows and 6 paramitas for eons, who have attained the stages of 10 kinds of reliance, 10 abodes of understanding, 10 actions of practice, 10 kinds of dedication, and transference of one's merit for the other's benefit. That means that when you build up happiness, when you build up joy, when you build up a sense of freedom, you offer that out. You transfer it to others. You transfer your wealth. You transfer your health and wealth to others. You don't just keep it for yourself. They perfected all this. Yet they still have not attained complete enlightenment by doubting the true nature of conditioned things. So they still continue to grasp onto conditioned things. And they do not know what to do when they hear about the law of formless form. So they're contrived and they're grasping. They're stuck in their ideas of being a bodhisattva. They always retain the insight of seeking the Buddha, but as they have not yet cut off the roots of defilement and old habit, right? So this is the defilement of grasping, and this is the old habit of doing things in the usual way, doing things in the way of expectation, right? Form is form, formless is formless. Whereas the formless form, the law of the formless form is that impermanence is life. Or that within form there is formlessness. Within formlessness there is form. They always retain the insight of seeking the Buddha, but as they have not yet cut off the roots of defilement and old habit, they have to rely on the nobility and teachings of Buddha to subjugate them. For instance, it is like the one who, well versed in mantra, could subjugate the fierce animals and snakes to protect the people, yet could not remove their venom. It is also like a person who still has some doubts about the Buddha Dharma hanging in his throat. If so, he should visit a good master for instruction, one who will immediately enable him to attain the 10 stages of enlightenment. But if he neglects to visit a good master, or if they neglect to visit a good master and remain in the dark, they will surely fall into evil ways. We all know the old saying, when the student is ready, the master will appear. Period. You're not ready. You don't take it that seriously. You're not like that. When you're ready, I'll be here to help you. And Rabina, that's a final warning, okay? This is not a soapbox. Okay, last chance. You've got to really decide what you want to do, how serious you want to be about this. And just like a good job, it's not that complicated. Just like if Mark Wahlberg called you up and Mark Wahlberg wanted you to be the CEO of his new sneaker flavored beer. And he said, I want you to be the CEO. We've got a penthouse for you. We've got all the beer you want. We got all the money you want. We want you to have this job. And you said, well, let me think about it. Or maybe, I'll call it in, right? I'll do a call-in job. No, you want that job or you don't. You want to get enlightened, you want to meet a living Buddha or meet enlightened masters, or you don't. And that takes sacrifice. It's not business. It's not about buying and selling. It's not about the value that you bring to it, because you probably don't bring much value to it. The value that you bring to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is the value of your renunciation, your sacrifice, your surrender, your detachment, your seriousness about surrender. And a lot of people don't become monks and nuns, and it's one of the issues in the modern Sangha or the modern Buddhist community, because people who are not crazy or not mentally unstable, they tend to be too self-satisfied in making money or in being in relationships or doing what they like to do. And even the notion of wealthy people like being generous is an affront to them. They take that as an offense. Like, how dare you encourage me to practice generosity? But to become a monk or a nun, you have to give up everything, literally. You have to give up your entire life. And to do that is, when you have some skill and you know you can take care of yourself, it takes a very generous person. And it takes a person who has accumulated a lot of merit from past lives to be able to make that decision to renounce, to become a monk, to abandon their life. I made that decision, okay? It doesn't matter if lay people can attain Buddhahood. It's not about lay people, it's about you. It's about your mind. And the mind of greed and anger, the mind of someone it's disgusting and annoying, but it will just constantly make up all of these different points to continue grasping. You cannot become enlightened. A lay person cannot become enlightened. A monk cannot become enlightened. How can someone become not someone? You're arrogant and you're a fool. So that's why you're not going to make much progress at a 10-day Vipassana retreat. Okay, let's continue. But if he neglects to visit a good master and remains in the dark, he will surely fall into evil ways. He, she, we, they, everybody. A quotation from the National Preceptor Bojo. All beginners must first learn what right causal condition is. However, one should be careful to understand that the 5 basic precepts, the 10 virtues, the 12 links of dependent origination, and the 6 paramitas are not right causal conditions. One must realize that the right causal conditions are to believe that the mind is Buddha and incalculable eons are but emptiness arising from mind. What are we talking about here? Is this Islam? Is this Christianity? Is this Hasidic Judaism? Is this what Kamala Harris is trying to teach us? Is this Illuminati? Okay? All beginners must first learn what right causal condition is. Causal condition. The right context, the right environment, the right approach, the right perspective, the right condition, causal condition. The container for cause and effect to liberate, to go the path, to really step into the fold. Okay? A quotation from the National Preceptor Bojo. All beginners, so Mike, you're a beginner. All beginners must first learn what right causal condition is. However, one should be careful. So should be careful to understand. That means looking deeply, looking closely, looking carefully. It doesn't mean just whatever you think that it means right off the cuff. That's not carefulness. That's not contemplation. That's convenient for your ego, but it's not careful. Listen to this. This is a quotation from, everybody's so arrogant. This is the National Preceptor Bojo. Who are you? Mike Yesh. This is the National Preceptor Bojo. Who are you? Bhante Warapanyo? No. You are not someone. I don't care who you are. A quotation from the National Preceptor Bojo. All beginners must first learn what right causal condition is. However, one should be careful to understand that the 5 basic precepts, the 10 virtues, compassion, patience, forgiveness, kindness, all these things, the 12 links of dependent origination, and the 6 paramitas, meditation, effort, patience, all the good stuff, are not right causal conditions. Careful to understand that these are not right causal conditions. One must realize that the right causal conditions are to believe that the mind is Buddha and incalculable eons are but emptiness arising from the mind. Now, of course, this is when we get Joe Schmo coming up with his weed and his beer and his arrogance and his greed and his delusion saying, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man. That's what it is. All right? But they're not actually here for real. They're astral projecting from their DMT slumber on their couch, and that's as far as they're going to go. So that's not reliable. Okay, their astral projection from Joe Schmo about, that's not what this is talking about. All right, listen to this. One must realize that the right causal conditions, the right conditions where enlightenment can take place, where really progress on the path can take place, are to believe that the mind is Buddha. and incalculable eons are but emptiness arising from the mind. It has long since passed since the sages departed, resulting in the break of the relationship between masters and friends, and the exhaustion of the mainspring of wisdom. These are the main reasons why so many practitioners wander in delusion and fall over the obstacles of the empty forms. Their habitual method of expedience and the mediocre way also prevent the practice of the Four Noble Truths and the 12 links of dependent origination, let alone the development of right causal conditions. What is the mediocre way? We've got a question here, okay. Dark Age. And anyone, if you have a question, now is a good time. Dark Age. Hey Bhante, do you have any advice for people on the path that have non-skillful friends? Kill them. Kill non-skillful friends. What else are you going to do? Get rid of them. Bury them 6 feet under. Detach from them. That's what it means. To cut, to finish, to end, to resolve that. Forgive them, abandon them, relinquish them, detach from them. Period. And don't think about it. And if they call you to get their hooks in you and stuff like that, you say, you know, I'm practicing meditation. I'm a Buddhist now. If you want to go for a practice meditation with me, you can come over, or I'm going to be visiting this Buddhist temple nearby. We can go together, that kind of thing. And then if they're still acting a fool, cut them up. Finish them. Kamehameha, spirit bomb them, whatever it takes. What is the mediocre way? And this is the document that I was talking about recently. What is the mediocre way? It is the halfway to the ultimate truth. What is the habitual method of expedience? It is saving a sister-in-law from drowning by offering only a hand. I've been talking to you about this, Mike Yesh, and you keep asking the same old stupid questions. Listen. Put on your listening ears. Thank you, Efault. Looks like we got some people who know what they're talking about here. One must realize, everybody shut up. One must realize that the right causal conditions, the right causal conditions for you to get what you want, which is not someone not getting something. One must realize that the right causal conditions are to believe that the mind is Buddha, and incalculable eons are but emptiness arising from the mind. It's not easy to believe that. Now, listen to this. The Master is giving some advisement. It has long since passed since the sages departed, resulting in the break of the relationship between masters and friends, and the exhaustion of the mainspring of wisdom. Look at it like this. Understand it like this. Trinity, you better watch out. Understand it like this, okay? If we were just an arm wrestling group, and this is the analogy I'm going to use, but I'm talking about a much bigger picture than this. If we were an arm wrestling group, and all of you people loved arm wrestling, and I also loved arm wrestling, so we came to this room together, and we had our arm wrestling table set up, and everybody's arm wrestling, and Bhante's way stronger than everybody. I mean, I love arm wrestling. Okay, the relationship between us is not going to be peers. We're not peers in arm wrestling. Okay? There's no friendship in us being peers because we aren't peers. I'm way stronger than you in that analogy about arm wrestling, okay? So if you have the view or the idea in that arm wrestling situation that you are a peer, even though you're being defeated, even though you're coming to me to learn, coming to me so that you can learn, right? Then you are a lunatic. And the only friendship that's going to be happening there, okay, is the friendship of being a lunatic. Now, this also applies to the world of wisdom. I'm not saying that that's who I am, but I'm saying maybe you should think about that, okay? Listen to the advisement from the Master here. It has long since passed since the sages departed, resulting in the break of the relationship between masters and friends, and the exhaustion of the mainspring of wisdom. So he's saying here that in the relationship between masters and friends, there is a mainspring of wisdom. Now, what did he just say? So what would a master be? A master would be someone that believes that the mind is Buddha. We could even say that the mind is awareness and not whatever nonsense stories we come up with. And that incalculable eons, not just your complaint, not just this situation, not just this da-da-da-da-da, but that incalculable eons are but emptiness arising from the mind. So that would be a master, someone who believes that, or to the degree that they believe that the mind is Buddha. And friends would be believing adjacent, okay? They would have faith, and they would be true believers, but they would maybe not have realization. Because this belief, the belief is the right causal conditions for what? For realization. The belief is like theory practice, like engaged belief. The theory is within that belief, and the belief is the practice of that theory. This is really interesting what's coming up here. These are the main reasons why so many practitioners wander in delusion and fall over the obstacles of the empty forms, because so many practitioners do not have relationships with well-minded advisors. So many practitioners do not have relationship with the masters and friends, master and friends relationship. There's masters and then there's friends, spiritual family, friendship. There's meditation masters, and then there's the people who are meditators. These are the main reasons why so many practitioners wander in delusion and fall over the obstacles of the empty forms. I'm not saying it's a total black and white thing, but I'm saying that you should think about that perspective a little bit. Maybe it makes a little bit more sense than you thought it did. Especially if we look at the arm wrestling analogy. And there's nothing more I want than for Mike Yesh to get out here and put his elbow on the table and arm wrestle with me. But that takes sacrifice. It takes surrender. It takes renunciation. So these practitioners who are wandering in delusion, their habitual method of expedience and the mediocre way, so their habitual method of trying to do like what they can do, right? Something skillful. And the mediocre way that they practice also prevent the practice of the Four Noble Truths and the 12 links of dependent origination, let alone the development of right causal conditions. So the Master is saying here that taking this halfway approach is not supporting the development of realizing or even believing that the mind is the Buddha. that endless eons of stories and situations and people, places, experiences are emptiness arising from the mind. What is the mediocre way? It is the halfway to the ultimate truth. It's ultimate. You can't take a halfway. What is the habitual method of expedience, of like trying your best habitually? Trying your best. I'm trying my best. It is saving a sister-in-law from drowning by offering only a hand. Offer everything. These ways of practice are far from the way to the ultimate realm of truth. And a wise one will eventually come to realize that they are not the right ways to follow. Chan Master Shu says, Buddha preached one vehicle to the practitioner who is seeking the great way, and preached 6 paramitas, artful liberative techniques, and 6 states of existence to the practitioner who is seeking the small way of practice. Mike says, so give it my all and walk away from my current life. It's not going to help me at all. We're not waiting for you here. We're not setting up a room for you here. You think, you're going to arrive here in India and there's going to be a chariot with flowers because you've made a decision about give it your all, walk away from your current life? It's up to you how seriously you want to devote your life to this. So this came up for me, right? When we are relating to this from a place of generosity or giving or listening, rather than getting and taking, we set up natural boundaries. We realize how serious this is, and we don't need to reject it in the same way that we don't need to make it an all or nothing, but we can support it from our position of living our life the way that we live it. We can be a supporter, we can be a donor, we can be a volunteer, we can be a helper, we can be a listener. But when we don't practice generosity, when we don't approach it from that mindset, we're here to take. We're here to make mine. How can this be I, mine, me, self? And it's a very, very confusing situation when you approach it that way. And you're very likely to just get into a kind of disassociated or a kind of delirious state. Because you can't take this, you can't get this. This is not getting. This is not understanding. This is not grasping. This is not someone. This is not some place. This is not some situation. This is not some experience. This is hell, baby boy. You want to go to hell? I'll buy your ticket. That's what it takes. Everybody wants to appropriate Buddhism. Everybody wants to, spit on monks and, these kinds of things. But nobody wants to sell their soul to the devil. Excuse me, the Buddha. You're going to suffer a lot. And there's nobody who you can whine to about that's going to make that not the case. You come here to suffer. Give it my all and walk away from my current life. Do what you like to do. But it's not about you, man. It's about generosity. Why don't you start there? Why don't you start with making donation and getting a little bit more involved in the local Buddhist community? Make some donation. And donation's not all about money. For most people, that's mostly what they work with, so then it is about money. But it's about volunteering, it's about serving, it's about offering skilled consideration. What can you do? How can you help? Offer that. Or practice seriously, but that's difficult. Okay, Dark Age. Bhante, what are your thoughts on this? When can we know that we're ready to ordain as a monk? You'll never be ready to ordain as a monk, but you can. Chew on that. You will never be ready to ordain as a monk, but you can. Especially a real deal monk situation, no way. You're never going to be ready, but you can. And, I'm here to support you. I'm here to help. Okay, we're all out of battery for this. All the batteries are running out. Okay, any final questions or sharing experience before we finish today, before all of our batteries run out? Practice with the mind toward accepting irritation and enduring irritation, but see if you can get involved with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha in some way. Start to mull that over. And you're doing that now by being here as well. Yeah, chanting mantra can be meditation, so we can do a little bit of compassion mantra. Namo Guan Shi Yin Bu Sa. 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 Namo Guan Shi Yin Bo 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 Sa. You can also try something like that in our own life. We can try a lot of different things, and we're too close-minded about what it means to be a human being. I mean, what if I just start speaking like this? You know, does that mean my mind is broken? Does that mean that there's not meaning in that? No. There's no such thing as some monks. There's just a fool who won't stop swatting mosquitoes, when actually you have to learn how to deal with mosquitoes without killing them. Anastasia, you just keep getting involved and keep showing up. You take, listen, I'm a cultist. I'm in a cult. I'm a Buddhist monk. So when you ask me for advice, I'm going to tell you advice that you'll get in a cult. Take refuge in the Buddha. Take refuge in the Dhamma. Take refuge in the Sangha. Take refuge in ordained monastics. Take refuge in the monastic community and pick your poison. There's some monks that you'll like and agree with. There's some monks that you won't. And don't just agree or disagree with them. Support them. Feed them. They don't feed themselves. I don't have a job. Who's putting food in Bante's belly? You are. The donors. Who is organizing meditation retreat or meditation center, building meditation center? You are. The donors are. The monks aren't. We don't have jobs. We live in and through generosity. So think about that. Consider about that. Put instead of trying to kill the mouse, put out some snack, put out some treat for it. You know, people complain about cockroaches. This is not a soapbox. This is not a therapy session. This is not a kumbaya club, Mike. Shut up and listen. You've got to deal with it yourself and stop blaming people for your suffering. Stop blaming people for your lack of progress. Stop blaming people for your greediness, for your anger, for your tension. Stop blaming people for how delusional you are. Take it somewhere else, Chief. Because this is a connection point to poisoning the monk's bowl. You won't practice generosity, you won't donate, you won't volunteer, you won't serve instead of talking all this nonsense, right? But you know the monk depends on generosity. You know where the monk goes with their bowl every day, every now and again. And so now you don't just not give, you give poison. Focus on your life, man. I'm here to help. You want to become a monk? I'll help you. You need teachings? I'll give them to you. You need a shelter? I'll give it to you. You need food, water. You need a plane ticket to get out here? I'll give all of that to, I'll take care of that for you. And yet somehow I'm the problem. Somehow I'm the problem. I'm Mike's problem. You better watch out. Okay? Especially if you like to arm wrestle. You better watch out, buddy. Somehow Bante is the problem. Well, Bante is Bante's problem, and Mike is Mike's problem, and Erica is Erica's problem. Okay? Don't blame me for being a monk. Don't blame me for being a Buddhist. Don't blame me for being generous. Do your best. And if you need somewhere to stay, if you want to meet a living, real master, if you want, to become a monk, okay, no problem. You let me know. And that offer is for everybody here. Just most people aren't that serious about, becoming a monk or sacrificing their life or doing a bit, changing their life in that kind of dramatic way. And I'm not saying you have to do that. But that's what, I'm offering and what I'm concerned with and that's how I'm living my life. This is not PBS, this is the MBS, the Monk Broadcasting System, and it is supported and enabled by viewers like you, no matter how big or how small you may be. Listen, Mike, get out of here and never come back. What are you talking about? Get out of here. Go. I don't care if you come to me for guidance or you go to other monks for guidance. What are you talking about? You are greedy. You are angry. You're overcome by frustration. And you're delusional. You are lost and confused. I am a Buddhist monk sharing the Dhamma freely for everyone, not for you personally. If you go live, I won't go to watch it. If you teach the Dhamma, I won't go to listen to it. That's your problem. This is my problem. So go there and do your best. Wherever you go. You don't need to go to monks for guidance. You don't need to become a monk. You don't need to have anything to do with Buddhism. But if you do want to have something to do with Buddhism, and if you want to come to me for guidance, that's okay with me. And have enough faith in Bhante to detach from the general chat. This is not about people's opinions or what people say or people's ideas about things. This is about the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. This is about generosity and following precept and practicing meditation. This is about vipassana. This is about mindfulness and detachment. This is about the truth. This is not about what people say. This is not about arguing. This is not about holding opinions. You see? This is not a normal place. You see? So, come and go freely, but don't be confused about what's going on here. I don't care about people's opinions. They want to argue about things. They want to, if you want to do that, we can do that, but you have to come here. You have to be in person. This is a portal. And it's a limited portal concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And if you have questions about my life as a monk, if you want to donate, you want to support Bhante, if you want to learn more about the organization that I'm a part of, if you want to ask questions about meditation or Buddhism, if you want to share about your experience, your practice, your path, that's really wonderful. This is the place for those things. But your agreement or your disagreement or, what are you talking about? Go away, never come back. You think I'm a salesman? It's like being a vegan. It's like right now I'm a vegan and someone comes here with a cheeseburger and says, take this cheeseburger, eat this cheeseburger, bite this cheeseburger. And I say to them, go away and never come back. Now I'm a bad person. Now I'm out of control. I've lost my mind. We have to learn, if we want to make progress in Buddhism, we have to learn how to be mindful, to be aware of what's happening right now, and to detach. And to detach doesn't mean we eat the cheeseburger or we, say, get out, go away, never come back. It means that in eating the cheeseburger, we just eat the cheeseburger. In saying get out and never come back, we just say get out and never come back. There's no added layer of ignorance and attachment or someone or some real true person in a real true story. the work is to practice, to be mindful and to detach moment by moment and breath by breath. Okay, so we'll finish with paying homage to the Buddha and taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And I do recommend you practice some vegetarianism, some veganism if you can, but we'll finish with this chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all the merits accumulated and brought about from this live Dhamma talk and practice and chanting and sharing be dedicated and shared out to all beings, especially those in the area of Bodh Gaya in Bihar, India. May all beings receive and rejoice in these merits, and may these merits accumulate for the benefit of enlightenment for all. May it be, may it be. May it be. Thank you. Namaste. Well, we might as well let it go to 4 hours as I clean up here. kindness comes in many forms. So, nothing personal.